I'm privileged to be joined on stage by my esteemed panel that represents some of the most exciting economies in the world today. We're talking about the B, the R, the I, the C, and the S, the BRICS economies. Unfortunately, we don't have Brazil this evening, but I'm sure the discussion will suffice. Let me start by introducing my panel. To my immediate left is Anitha Soni, and she's the chairperson of the board, Brand South Africa. Anitha, welcome.
Thank you, Lam.
Thank you very much for joining us. And we also have Elena Demidova. She's the general director of expert Avis marketing from Russia.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. And of course, the big C, which is China, we have Olivia, jingshu, and she is the founder and vice president of the CEBEX group in China. Thank you very much, Olivia, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Last but not least, because he's a man, we'll introduce you last, we have Mr. Nandakumar Devarajan. He's the head of business development at the Kouni Travel group in India, which happens to be India's largest travel group and industry. Thank you very much to my guests.
Thank you very much.
Well, as you know, Meetings Africa started this year, 2012, with a lot of fanfare, a lot of flurry of activity, and South Africa's Minister of Tourism, Mr. Martinez van Schalkwyk, did the honors of announcing South Africa is indeed open for business. Let's take a look at this. Thank you.
That's the official sound of business tourism. South African Tourism Minister Martinez van Schalkwyk had a pep in his step and confidence about the 9th edition of Meetings Africa.
What we have already secured for the next 5 years, it's 200 conventions and conferences, and that translates into 300,000 delegates coming to our country from all over the world, and they will spend 1.6 billion rand, a cash injection into our economy. Now that's good news for us, but we want to improve on that. And in the next financial year, our new National Conventions Bureau, they've committed to bid for another 30, and we've already secured some of those, and the others we are halfway there. And that, we believe, will bring another 18,000 delegates. That will translate into 160 million rand additionally into our economy.
Meetings Africa is the largest meetings, incentive, conferences and exhibitions trade event on the African continent. The newly established National Convention Bureau, which will coordinate and professionalize the bidding for the MICE business, received special attention from the Minister.
At the moment, sometimes we end up where all three of our metropolitan areas compete with one another and they undermine each other, and in the end, we don't get the bid, other countries walk away with it. So it will be much better if we coordinate, if we professionalize our bid, if even as government we sometimes put money into our bids, because that pays off for our economy.
The lady at the helm of the Convention Bureau, Amanda Kotse-Nhlapo, hit the ground running and has her work cut out.
We know that there are other efforts that needs to come in before us, or other issues that that needs to be dealt before us, but we do believe that our industry can really contribute, because for me business tourism is beyond numbers, it's beyond the delegates, it is about people coming into it's about legacy, it's about sharing of knowledge. If you bring a professor that is on the top of his profession, whether it's heart surgeons or whatever, those people are coming and brush shoulders with our local people.
In 2011, 212 exhibitors from all sectors of business tourism marketed their products and services. 2,131 visitors, including 100 international buyers and media representatives, attended the exhibition. The focus this year is to turn those numbers into business.
Well, thank you very much to my panel once again. I'd like to start with you, Anitha Soni, as the host, of course. You are the custodian of Brand South Africa, and you are involved in what we call economic diplomacy, and that's quite interesting. I think just to start off the discussion, explain to us and the people at home, what exactly is economic diplomacy?
Lionel, we have thus far, and we all know from the way government is organized and how it goes about doing its business, that there are a multiple range of focus areas that government progresses in terms of diplomacy. The one is clearly around diplomacy in terms of the various bilaterals that we would go into with countries where we would want to be able to have even just a friendship with them. But obviously we do that on the basis that it opens the doors to other issues. Then we have, and particularly in the last few years, we've had a very focused thrust around the economic development of our country and the development of our economy. And that, in a way, has taken us across the border to partner countries, be it in the, in the way of BRICS countries or, across the world generally, where we would then progress economic diplomacy. And that is, yes, we want to sign up bilaterals with you, not only because we're going to go to the UN and vote in a particular way, or we're going to handle conflict in a particular way, but we're also looking at how we're going to grow concurrently with our international partners. And hence the economic diplomacy has started becoming quite a key focus around South Africa's agenda for economic growth in our country.
Just a follow-up question, though. Anitha, obviously we were here to talk about the BRICS group of countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's almost a year since we've joined that group. We are almost dwarfed by the size of the other economies. Why is BRICS important to us as a country and as a continent?
Well, let's first start off as to why it's important for us as a country. President Zuma, in his State of the Nation address a few weeks ago, shared with us that since we joined the BRICS family, or the BRIC family, which became the BRICS family when we joined, our exports grew fourfold, into those countries. And our imports from those countries doubled. Now, that in itself says to you that it just makes business sense for us to be able to play with the largest growing economies in the world. And, after China, India, and ourselves as South Africa being seen, and Africa as a continent being seen as where the new markets are, it is, it's not rocket scientists to work out the fact that that is where the market is, that's where the growth is, and hence foreign direct investment is going to chase these destinations. And clearly, as part of the BRICS family and as part of South Africa, we want to attract our fair share of the foreign direct investment so that we, again, can do the sort of things that we know would grow our country and, create a better life for the people in South Africa. On your point around the continent, we went into BRICS, and yes, there was a lot of commentary around size. And, there are countries such as Singapore who have proven that size does not matter, okay? And we say size doesn't matter in South Africa because we're saying that when you look at a number of fists that we carry in South Africa, just around the framework around which the country, operates. For example, our whole financial sector and how we operate. We stand out there against the best in the world, or what we thought was the best of the world, and we come out against World Economic Forum indicators, the global competitiveness indicators that say you are the best in the world. You run the best banking systems in the world. Your financial sector, your regulatory sector, etc., has, provides us with that. Now, for Africa, we using all of that, including our investment in infrastructure development, and again, reflecting on our State of the Nation addresses here, you'd notice there's a major thrust around infrastructure. Because Africa represents, like I said, after India and China, the third biggest growing market. And in order for that market to be tapped, be it intra-regionally, and that is for us in Africa, and let's not forget that that's where we want to start, is at home, we need to be able to access those markets. And it's as true of business tourism as it is of any other element in the economy. And in order to be able to do that, access becomes paramount, infrastructure becomes paramount, and an enabling environment in terms of a framework that creates the confidence in the market to be able to deal with it. And herein lies where South Africa serves as the entry point and creates that platform for the rest of Africa to be able to take advantage of the markets that exist there.
We hope that actually happens, because we have with us Elena, Olivia, as well as Nandakumar, that represent some of the important MICE industry players in their respective countries. Thank you very much, Anitha. Let's move on to Russia now. And from the MICE industry point of view, how important is the African market and the South African market to you?
You know, the Russian market is, I would say, I mean, business travel and MICE market started to be developed about 10 years ago. And of course, the first destinations which attract attention of the biggest players on the market was those destinations which are more easy to come. It's destinations with no visa, with easiest logistics. And working with the South African DMC as a representative for the last 4 years, I would say the interest to the market is growing from year to year, but still we have experienced a lot of, I would say, complicated things in terms of the reaching this country. Because Russians, of course, they do like, you know, different places, different destinations, and South Africa, of course, it's quite exotic destination for the Russian buyers, but I would say for the last 5 years, a lot of different destinations make a step forward to attract Russians to their countries. At the moment, I would say South Africa is a little bit in a quiet position on the Russian market. And it's
is there an interest, though? Is there a real interest?
The interest is there for sure. And I would say that Russians is interested in what's going on in the country. And of course, after the World Cup especially and all this PR and promotion, the Russians, they're looking for the destination as one of the alternative for their new events, new conferences, new incentive business. But still, it's not easy for them to, to come and to make and to organize the events here.
So they don't have a problem with the weather in South Africa. They love the weather here.
For us, the weather is the most nicest here because...
so you have a problem with access, and that is the
yes.
visa restrictions and everything.
Yes.
Well, we have Anitha talk about that economic diplomacy and how she's making it easier for Russians to come in a bit later. But opening statement from China, everybody's got their eyes on China right now. The world has opened its doors to your nation, and China has really shown the kind of phenomenal nation it is. In the last 30 years, the growth that you've seen is phenomenal. 400 million people taken out of poverty. You would agree with me when I say that China is definitely a star player.
Thank you, Lionel. I think that's a very good question. But before I answer your question, I checked the number yesterday. Actually, the BRICS country account for 40% of the world population. So, which means today's discussion and also all the audience and media, we do a discussion related with almost half of the world population. So that's why I really want to appreciate meeting South Africa to put this panel together, and also South Africa Tourist Bureau to put this discussion together. I think China have very special relationship with South Africa for a very long time. And since the end of 2009, China is already the biggest trading partner for South Africa. And the last year, this time, from January to June, the trading numbers between South Africa and China, South Africa export equal to $4.8 billion to China, and import $5.2 billion from China. So, and since April last year, South Africa first time joined the BRICS summit, actually holding in China, Sanya, the island. I think this put all this relationship into a framework, and this framework going to speed up, make all this like business activity, tourist activity, everything faster and quicker. I think within this structure, lots of people asking the question about what role China play. I'm not a politician, but I'm a businesswoman. For business, we all know dominate is never a long-term sustainable strategy. It's only airlines. If you build up good airlines, it's really the right strategy for a long-term beneficial relationship and a long-term development strategy. I think that is China's strategy. That's also why I think this time South Africa tourists invite like a big delegation of China come here. We all want to know more about South Africa, want to do business with South Africa. We have very dynamic discussion already. And Anitha, we have very good discussion, and South Africa brands, they have very good strategy and thinking about how to develop a potential in China. And I think that's where we come from. We come from for cooperation. We're very open and very friendly in the whole framework. And we're looking for the not only win-win, because it's 5 countries involved, so the win-win situation.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, now India is a country that has grown its numbers inbound tourists to South Africa by about 122% from 2005. There's definitely a long-term relationship between India and South Africa. Cricket is the one sport that both countries love very much. And of course, I would imagine there's a great interest from your country to South Africa. Nandakumar, just give us a sense of just how interested Indian people are in outbound travel, specifically to South Africa.
All right. You got it right when you said there's a huge amount of interest amongst the Indian outbound travelers to South Africa. And it's also right that the last few years have seen exponential growth. All right? But what is to be kept in perspective is if these growths were event-related, you said cricket is very important for Indians. Yeah? So we had 3 important events in South Africa. So we had a lot of Indians coming here. We had FIFA. Again, India is very popular. We had passengers coming here. What we need to do now is to see, if you take these events out, would these passengers still come to South Africa? Does South Africa actually address the actual needs of the Indian traveler? Or is it just that some very popular events are actually drawing Indian visitors into South Africa? I think that's a very important point to debate on.
Well, we are here to talk about the BRICS countries and the specific opportunities within the MICE industry and the business and tourism industry. And I think it helps that South Africa does have, Anita, a fantastic leisure product. And we'll talk about how this actually plays into the business tourism point of view. But just as selling South Africa as a leisure tourism destination, how hard is that?
Well, you know, we are blessed to the extent that God did shower on us some of our resources, which I think He just leaves to us to manage and ensure that future generations, you know, can also benefit from it. I think working those assets and resources to the benefit of the economy is what's going to be important, and to take the leisure destination discussion beyond just what resources we have available. And that really, and coming back to Nandakumar's point, is around packaging experiences that would then exploit our resources, bring it to the fore, and also encourage you know, people to come to us beyond the sort of flash event type thing. You know, whether we're hosting the IPL on behalf of India or whether we are, you know, hosting the FIFA World Cup, we know that yes, we use that as a window opportunity, but we need to, and it is a private sector challenge in a way, to be able to take the South African product and be able to package it in a manner that creates that, takes that exotic definition a little bit further, so that you see it in the way you experience the people of the country, the culture of the country, the cuisine, the shopping, etc.
Because Russia seems to have a problem accessing our destination. What can Brand South Africa do for them?
You know, and it's a key question, and I would have been surprised. It comes up. It came up with China when I was on the South African Tourism Board as a director. It was one of the key issues we had to deal with at that stage, where we wanted to have the advantaged destination status with China, and China threw its toys out the cot literally and said, listen, you guys want us to come and visit in your country, but you know, on the one hand, South African tourism is investing money, attracting us to the country, and so is your private sector, and on the other hand, you have arms of government that's holding us back by saying we're not going to give you a visa, or we're going to make things difficult for you to get into the country. So there doesn't seem to be a concurrence in terms of the approach. And I think we've come a long, long way in terms of addressing it. And China served as a very good best practice for us in a way, because, you know, we had to go through that, eat humble pie. You know, you want people to come to your country, you need to start looking at what are those barriers that are being set up. Is it the availability of our consul offices, our embassies in the key destinations? Is it the paper processing issue? Does it take too long? Is the cost, you know, a barrier? And be able to unpack those. But, you know, what we reached with China was a long process, not a very long process, but a process that was a thorough process. And hence we have the sort of visa regime that we have at the moment that prevails there. Okay. And likewise, I think, you know, with our entry into BRICS and being a partner with Russia, we would, as a country, be committed to doing that. Otherwise, we don't sign, you know, we don't go into these agreements just for the sake of it.
We've been a member of BRICS for just 1 year, so we'll give you some time, Anita.
Absolutely, and I want to say to you, Lionel, just on that, is that if you look at it, less than a year into our BRICS relationship, we have a direct flight into Beijing.
Fantastic.
Into 3 of our destinations, into Brazil, India, and into China, we have direct flights from South Africa. Now, I think that is phenomenal. If we look back a few years ago, there was no way we would have a direct flight into those destinations. And we're hoping soon.
We are very hoping.
We're hoping soon.
You just want to come in quickly before the break, Elena?
Capacity to make it a viable proposition. And I know, Cheryl Carolus, who's the chair of the SAA board, is very passionate about that. And she's got a tourism head on her shoulders too. So that helps.
Eleni, just a quick word before we go to the break about that link, the air link, and how it's going to help the MICE industry in your country access South Africa better.
No, definitely, that's, we are talking about the main instruments which making the destination to be accessible and to have a successful promotion on the Russian market. It's 3 main points. It's visas, it's direct flights, and of course it's promotion of the destination and much more updated information about the country itself. And I would say, as an example, because we have a big problem with the statistic figures, I would say for like Latin America, they stopped the visas for the Russians up to now 1-2 years. Some of the countries.
And how has this affected the industry between the two countries?
And it's tremendously affected. I mean, we can see that at the moment, we sometimes when we are in the tenders, like South Africa or Brazil or Mexico, I mean, it's going to Latin America, and it's only the question about, I would say, its easiest success and easiest visa process.
Okay, I'd like you to hold that thought. We're going to take a break. China and India, we want to engage with you guys after the break.